Hi, this is Major Gaurav Arya. Like, subscribe and press the bell icon so that you get all the videos of Chanakya Forum on priority. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another exciting episode of the Chanakya Dialogues. Vaccine diplomacy. I'm sure none of us would have heard of this word 4 months back. But today, everybody seems to be talking about it. And the fact that the virus came from China and it is India that has become the vaccine capital of the world, India that is giving the cure to the rest of the world, is something that no one had reckoned with. Today, I have with me once again Lieutenant General Syed Ata Hasnain, former GOC 15 Corps and Chancellor, Central University of Kashmir. I'm going to talk to General Hasnain about how India has benefited from this vaccine diplomacy. What is happening in countries nearby, especially in the subcontinent, and how is Pakistan reacting to it? What is China's role? So we start with the first question to General Hasnain. Sir, very warm welcome to our show, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, so my first question to you is, sir, that this virus originated from China, and India is seen as the country that provided a cure, which is also true. India did provide a cure. Now, we've been supplying vaccines free of cost to the neighborhood, sir, and also selling it, exporting this vaccine to many countries in the world, sir. Now, how is the world seeing China and how is the world seeing India, sir?
See, this is, Gaurav, an excellent scenario of perception. Wuhan has got related to the virus because that's where it broke out. And Wuhan, a city of 11 million in the center of China, obviously it's got related to China. Sure. And that's how it came to be known as the Wuhan virus, and in many ways the Chinese virus, which is what former President Trump termed it at that time. On the other hand, you find in the case of India, a serious effort to try and contain the virus. One of the most populous countries, the manner in which we went about and restricted our death rate, and then went into an overdrive on the aspect of research, in fact, which hardly anyone knows about. I was really unaware of the fact that we have one of the largest pharma industries in the world. Sure. And to make use of the research and development, and then subsequently to be able to get your act together and have the vaccine ready in a matter of about 10 months or less, I think is an amazing achievement, which is now being realized by the world. So what has really happened is that on one side, the villain, the black, is China. The perception is very clear about China. It is the black. It is the white, which is India, the nation which is the counter to the virus. On one hand, China, the virtual creator of the virus, and on the other side, India, the virtual neutralizer of the virus. This is how the world is perceiving the situation of the virus at the moment.
So, taking into account China's Belt and Road Initiative and how China, string of pearls encircling India, etc., sir, do you think to some extent, at least emotionally and mentally, India's helping the neighboring countries, giving them vaccines free of cost, do you think somehow it will enhance India's brand equity and also neutralize Chinese expansionism there? Not physically, sir, because that will require lots of money, not physically, but at least in the mind that the local population will understand that one gave us the virus and one gave us the vaccine, sir.
Absolutely. Gaurav, in fact, when we look at India's neighborhood, the question which comes to the mind of any analyst is that why did we not do enough in the past to ensure that the neighborhood remained with us? Our near abroad region remained with us and the Chinese could not make enough forays into it. This is something which we always wondered. Now for a change, this opportunity which has arisen has been really seized with some really quick decision making and some deft diplomacy, I think. The situation as far as the availability of the vaccines is concerned. I think we have gone on an overdrive. As much as we are doing internally in India, we seem to be doing almost the same amount for the neighborhood. For example, Bangladesh, 20 lakh, 2 million doses of vaccine has already reached there. And then every other country, including, I think, has now just gone to Afghanistan, it's gone to Myanmar, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Mauritius, Seychelles, everywhere we find the Indian vaccine have found a place. Obviously, none of these countries had the capability to manufacture, to do research on their own, to do any kind of manufacturing. And when you've got the subcontinent, which is also many times known as Indo-centric, the subcontinent is centered on India. Then why, if it is geostrategically centered on India, then why shouldn't we ensure that in the minds of the people, this centricity of India remains, it continues to maintain itself in that way. So I think we've taken a very, very good decision on it. And we have to a very great extent been able to counterbalance, I won't say completely neutralize, but counterbalance the increasing influence of the Chinese. You can now see in the case of Bangladesh in particular, a country with which we are celebrating our 50th anniversary of the the creation of Bangladesh in 1971. I think a very, very apt time and a very apt opportunity at which time we are carrying out this vaccine diplomacy with them. Similarly, with all other countries in South Asia, and I think this is the time when actually our diplomacy, our local diplomacy is really coming into being at the cost of what the Chinese have been attempting to do as far as the string of pearls diplomacy is concerned.
So the Pakistani media has taken a certain lines, and what they seem to say is, and what I'm hearing coming from Pakistan is that India has deliberately withheld the vaccine from Pakistan, and India does not want to give the vaccine to us. Because when I say us, I mean Pakistan, sir, and from their point of view, and they're saying that India doesn't have, it always comes down to India does not have a large heart, sir. India is not large-hearted. India does not realize that it should help everybody equally. And this is coming from the common person on the street, sir, that India should help Pakistan. Now, my question to you is, sir, that if India decided to help Pakistan, if Prime Minister Narendra Modi actually said that, okay, let's go ahead and supply the vaccines free of cost to Pakistan, do you think that he would be putting substantial political capital at risk to do so right now at this stage, sir?
This question has a lot of sub-questions within it, but it's perhaps the most pertinent question in this entire discussion. And let me start by saying, when it comes to goodwill, I don't know whether Pakistan can really find enough rationale to point fingers at India. If Pakistan recalls, or the planners in Pakistan, the decision makers in Pakistan can recall, it is India which has all along been talking about the people-to-people relationship. The necessity of detaching the issue of boundaries, the problem of boundaries between India and Pakistan, and following a completely different path of improving the relationship and looking at possibly resolving the boundary issue many years later when relationships have improved. But Pakistan has never chosen to do that. At the first instance, they have always been looking at opportunities of how to play down India, despite having signed the similar agreement with us. Every year they take the issue of Kashmir to the United Nations. They find every opportunity of creating third parties to come and intervene in affairs between India and Pakistan. I mean, nothing. There's no place, no stage which is left as far as goodwill between India and Pakistan is concerned. As far as Mr. Modi is concerned, I think in 2014, when he came to power, about 15 months or so, he did not pay too close an attention to improvement of relations with Pakistan, but thereafter he went on an overdrive. And if you remember, from the UFA meeting with Mr. Nawaz Sharif, subsequently the meetings of the National Security Advisors, and then Mrs. Sushma Swaraj's visit to Pakistan, Islamabad for the Heart of Asia conference and things like that. But suddenly, after Mr. Modi himself decided to visit Pakistan on 25th of December 2015, you saw in 7 days how the deep state paid us back by the attack at Pathankot. Sure. So I don't know from which side Pakistan can ever talk about goodwill. The goodwill has always existed despite everything. I can remind you of the times of Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Sure. I mean, whose initiative was it each time that Pakistan did something awkward with us? It is we who always went back to create peace with them. Even in 2004-05, if you remember, opening the Muzaffarabad road, everything. These are all instances of the past which are fresh in my mind at least. Therefore, today I'm surprised that the Pakistani media is saying that India is not looking at Pakistan with a kindly eye, with an element of positivity, an aspect of a neighborhood, of a very important country in the neighborhood, and from the angle of a people-to-people relationship. But then two have to play this game. Diplomacy is not a one-sided game. Two have to play this game. And I think there are two sides to this whole question, whether India should proactively engage with Pakistan in terms of vaccine diplomacy. But if nothing else, a kindly word, something positive, must emerge from the leadership within Pakistan. All we have heard in the last 1 year, ever since the virus has struck this area, is only negativity from Mr. Imran Khan. There has never been a positive word which has been spoken out here. So I think India would always be looking at the positive angle of goodwill. I may remind you, at the height of our bad relationship over a period of time, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj always kept an open mind as far as the treatment of life-threatening cases from Pakistan was concerned. Anyone could tweet to her and she used to allow people to come in and facilitate their treatment and things like that. So it's not so. Also, despite the deteriorating relationship, as far as our trade is concerned, the law on life-saving drugs continues to support our trade. $62 million worth of drugs have been exported by India to Pakistan in the year 2018. That's the last record we have got with us. So it's not as if India has been bad to Pakistan in any way. We've been, I think, definitely very positive, but something has to emerge from the other side. And this whole policy which we have been talking about, talks and terror cannot go together. Relationship improvement cannot go along with terrorism. There has to be something has to be taken from that. And if Pakistan actually accepts this whole adage, then I think they are the ones who need to be a little more proactive on this aspect of drug diplomacy, or rather vaccine diplomacy with India.
So I just have to ask you the next question because it wasn't planned, but so you said that a positive note from Pakistan, sir. And you're saying that a lot of negativity spread by Mr. Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Is it also because he's not a mass leader like Nawaz Sharif? Nawaz Sharif is the heart of Punjabiyat, sir. And he is part of the establishment, and General Ziaul Haq, made him the finance minister of Pakistani Punjab, and etc. etc. So all these people have been part of the establishment at one point in time, whether it's Bhutto or whether it's Nawaz Sharif. I'm talking about Zulfikar, so the senior Bhutto. All of them have been part of the establishment bought in by Pakistani military dictators now. But at the same time, sir, today Imran Khan feels, because there is video evidence available in which Imran Khan, before he came to power, was saying something else. And after that, sir, Imran Khan is saying absolutely something which is totally different, an absolute U-turn, sir, in which there is venom spouted against India simply because, and people say that this is something like we say in Hindi, sir, iski majboori ban gayi hai. It is something that he's forced to do simply because he does not have grassroots political clout like a Nawaz Sharif. He's dependent upon Rawalpindi for his survival, and he has to toe the army line. Unlike Nawaz Sharif, who's a product of the army, but whenever he's in power, he takes on the establishment to establish his writ. Do you think this could also be this thing that he does not have political clout, sir?
There is no doubt about the fact that Pakistan today doesn't have a grassroots leader. Sir. This is one of the dilemmas in Pakistan, actually. They just don't have a competent civilian leadership which has been nurtured through the grassroots and come up. Whoever has come up, the Pakistan army has managed to neutralize them and cast them aside. Mr. Imran Khan was supposed to be one person because he already had perhaps an enigmatic personality, a well-known, high-profile, etc. Everyone thought that he will make a good leader, and the army thought probably his name could itself carry everything. But at the end of the day, we have to realize it's the deep state. And the deep state can be defined and described in all different ways. Who all form the deep state there? There are stakeholders of all kinds. In the deep state, I don't think any of those stakeholders would want goodwill with India. Because the Pakistan army is very clear. It's not just the Pakistan army. It is a very large segment of the veteran community of the Pakistan armed forces. It is the veteran community within the bureaucracy, within the judiciary, portions of the clergy. I mean, there are so many people among the very, very influential, high profile corporate families within Pakistan. They all form a part of this coterie called the deep state. I don't think it's in the interest of any of them to improve relations with India, and they would be the last to actually see anything such as vaccine diplomacy with India at this time. Therefore, I think Imran Khan is the wrong person at this time there. And besides the fact that anything else, the kind of language which is used against the Indian Prime Minister, I mean, personal diatribes kind of things which he has spoken against the Prime Minister and things like that, it doesn't go along with the personality of a national leader in any nation. So that is why I think in the current times, in the situation that we are and the real nadir in terms of our relationship with Pakistan that we are at the moment, I don't foresee any kind of an initiative being taken. Both sides are sitting back. No one is taking the initiative on this. And I think it's going to be a very difficult decision to take an initiative as far as reaching out to Pakistan and helping them with the vaccine is concerned.
So before we started shooting, you mentioned about China's forays into Africa. You mentioned about Australia and also a little bit about Europe. So could you expand on that? This entire Chinese so-called vaccine diplomacy in Africa, in Europe and in Australia, sir.
See, Gaurav, vaccine diplomacy can't be seen as something in isolation. This is something happening in conjunction with the way that the international strategic scenario is moving. With the coming of President Biden and the departure of President Trump, obviously the world is looking at where is Sino-US relations, which side is it going, in which direction is it going. Mr. Biden hasn't exactly shown his hand yet in terms of what kind of a policies are they going to follow. Is it going to be as negative as Mr. Trump followed, or is it something that he will build upon and something a little more positive, etc.? The Chinese, to my mind, are biding their time, but are also worried. They were worried about Mr. Trump. They are equally worried to see which side Mr. Biden is going to swing. And as a result, they are attempting to reach out to the world to sort of, overcome or neutralize the image, the negative image created by the Wuhan virus. For example, their relationship with Australia, which had deteriorated completely, I think they're attempting to try and rebuild that to some extent. With Europe, even at the height of the pandemic, they did reach out with medicines, etc., to Italy and to Belgium and countries like that. But now with the vaccine, they're attempting to reach out to all those countries again. So this is a kind of an international thing which is going on. China is attempting, it's also got a very large pharma industry. It is attempting to reach out to the rest of the world. I think this is a time when a very positive competitive spirit can emerge between India and China. Otherwise, normally you have competition in terms of your strategic influence here and there, but now the ability to reach out to humanity, help people out, I think India should be, besides South Asia, of course, doing enough for itself, should also be looking at some areas of Africa. It is already doing a lot in the Middle East. Incidentally, India is already reaching out to Saudi Arabia, to the UAE and many other countries in the Middle East. I think we should be reaching out to Africa in the very near future. As our capacity ramps up a little more, and we should also be doing something for as far as Europe is concerned, maybe to some extent even Central Asia is concerned, depending on what Russia is doing for Central Asia. Many of the countries which have the pharma capability probably around the world in conjunction with the World Health Organization will probably have some areas distributed among them to which they can actually reach out and make sure that their vaccines are provided to those areas. So India should be a very, very strong element in that. The last point here, I think with the United States having re-entered the World Health Organization, I hope to see some more positivity, a greater leadership role being provided by the United States, which will to a great extent neutralize Chinese influence. Because the Chinese at the moment, seem to be ruling the roost as far as the World Health Organization is concerned. Of course, they are under investigation themselves for the Wuhan virus, which is also there at the same time.
Sure. Various articles in the Global Times, various influential Chinese Twitter handles, which is strange because Twitter is almost banned in China, but some people are allowed to use. Those people who are part of the Communist Party, so very close to the Communist Party now, they have almost indirectly, not directly but indirectly, accused India of weaponizing the vaccines, in the sense that India is using the vaccine to undermine China. That is what they're saying. Of course, much of it could be the fact that China is always very, very sensitive to anything that is, they're sensitive to criticism. They're just generally sensitive people because they're not used to an open democratic way of life. So anything which is said against them or even which is contrary to their held beliefs is something that is taken not very well, sir. But this entire accusation of India trying to weaponize, in their words, weaponize the vaccine, this doesn't hold water at all, sir.
See, the Chinese, due to the fact that they're not a democracy, somehow hate competition. Competition, open competition is all a part of democratic norms and traditions, which is something that the Chinese are not very familiar with, not very comfortable with. So the moment they start seeing someone as big as India, a nation as big as India, and the kind of influence India is now obtaining around the world, obviously they start feeling uncomfortable about it. They need to be reminded that after all, the manufacturing which China has done for the last so many years all along its eastern coast and flooded the world with products, cheap products of all kinds, where does that leave China? After all, that is also a weaponization of economics, yes, in a way. So if India, which has got a large pharma infrastructure, a large pharma capability, if it is using it for humanity, I don't think this should be called the weaponization of vaccines. It is actually in many ways almost a welfare measure that India is doing for the rest of the world, and much of it is being done free of cost. It's not that we are making commercial use of this. So I think this is a natural response from China, which comes whenever they feel uncomfortable seeing India do better than China in any particular sphere of functioning. Absolutely. And that's exactly what is emanating from them at the moment.
So, my last question to you, sir. We come back to Pakistan in this. Pakistan has been facing a series of crises, sir, and not just about the vaccination. So we all know about the PIA flight, and we know about the use of airspace in Iran, and about how Turkey has, started its diplomatic relationship again with Israel, sir, and all of these factors. Now, sir, what comes to mind is Pakistan is becoming more and more, if I may use the word, disbalanced and unbalanced, sir. That sense of a nation which is strong is no longer there now. We have media reports coming from Pakistan that in February, again, the FATF will sit down and decide upon the fate of Pakistan. That's number one. So number two, like they say, sir, Qaumi Asase. The properties or the wealth of the state or the land is being mortgaged to China. In a very large context, sir, overall, we see Pakistan becoming more and more unsettled. And this question has nothing to do with the vaccine, sir. This question, I just wanted to ask you because I feel very strongly that in spite of whatever we say against Pakistan, sir, and those are closely held beliefs, a nuclear Pakistan, vaccine or no vaccine, sir, a nuclear Pakistan which is unstable is detrimental to South Asia, sir. A nuclear Pakistan that is unstable, sir. And it is becoming more and more unstable, sir, economically at least. Their fiscal deficit is going through the roof, sir. People don't have enough to eat. I want to know your views, sir, about this. Vaccine notwithstanding, sir.
Absolutely. I have been closely observing Pakistan of late, of course. My observations of Pakistan started way back in 1991. when I was holding an appointment and a desk at the army headquarters, which closely focused on Pakistan and wrote reports every day about it. And right from then, I've always been seeing the animosity which they have had with us and their own capability, which actually drives this animosity in many ways. Today, they've got themselves into a bind, absolutely. As you very correctly say, financially, perceptionally, the world points fingers at them. China, of course, supports them. It finds it geostrategically of such an important country that it gets the entire support of China. But the issue which you raised about nuclear weapons in a state such as Pakistan, which is the kind of instability which it has, obviously it concerns us in India as a part of South Asia, but I think equally it concerns many other countries of the world. The United States. The United States so far has been attempting since 1990 to ensure that nuclear weapons do not reach the hands of non-state actors, sub-conventional groups anyway. Because the moment that happens, then the possibility of fourth generation warriors taking up these weapons and using them in a subway somewhere in New York or in Tokyo or someplace, that becomes a reality, and that's the ultimate nightmare that we can all think of. So it's not us alone, it is a country like the United States, much of the Western world, which is equally concerned. But the one issue which we have to keep in mind is that Pakistan's location, geostrategic location, is of such utter importance that you can't deny this fact that it is there, it is occupying that space, surrounded by so many civilizations. Everyone has something to take away, everyone has something to give it. There has to be an international effort towards it, which has never happened so far. This whole aspect of declaring Pakistan a terrorist state, for example. If you could declare North Korea, they could declare Iran and all of the, so Venezuela and countries like that. Pakistan could never found this label attached to it because of its location. Because of its importance to the United States could never fight a war in Afghanistan without the support of Pakistan. Absolutely. Right. Similarly, you can't take out any of the energy from Central Asia without the assistance of the routes coming out of Pakistan. For example, the very famous Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India pipeline, TAPI, which is supposed to be the $10 billion project, which is stuck because Afghanistan, Pakistan, they can't get their act together. So these issues are all live, and we are fully aware of this. How much can India influence the international community about Pakistan? Earlier, it was a question of India being hyphenated with Pakistan. And therefore, it was not an easy thing to be able to explain Pakistan's negativity to the world community. Today, when we are reasonably dehyphenated, when the world is looking at India as an exclusive power by itself in the region, internationally, I think we are in a position, our diplomatic stance is changing, has to change more rapidly and much more. That will assist us in being able to project to the world the necessity to take control of Pakistan and do something about it. Because it can't just survive on doles, it can't survive on IMF loans, which have happened so many times before. I mean, each time a $6.5 billion loan can't be dished out to it every 2 years or 3 years. It has to find the means and ways of doing it. It has to restructure itself internally. Someone has to force it to do it. But that, I think, India can't do alone. But India can definitely take the lead in ensuring this. And that is, I think, diplomatically, I think this is what India is attempting to do. At the moment, our attention has got focused to China a little too much. Everyone says that it is China the main adversary. Pakistan is after all something which we can wish away. I don't agree with that entirely. We need to remain focused on Pakistan, and we need to remain focused on convincing the international community that something has to be done about Pakistan.
So very interestingly, when you mentioned that you see some nuclear weapons or weapons of mass destruction falling into the hands of non-state actors and going off in a subway somewhere, you're seeing the perfect nightmare scenario, sir. This occurred to me when the assassination attempt on General Musharraf happened, sir, and it was found out that the Pakistani Air Force personnel were involved and other people from the armed forces involved. And I said that it's not just about Pakistani weapons falling into the hands of the ISIS, the Al-Qaeda or the Taliban. That is one scenario. Al-Qaeda, Taliban, ISIS are a state of mind. And there are large parts of the Pakistani armed forces that share that warped ideology, sir. Okay, sir, I'm just putting the cart before the horse and I'm asking you, sir. If the army is itself so radicalized and Talibanized because they've been functioning very closely with the Taliban for a very long time and things have that spillover effect, if you continue to engage, spillover effect, sir. What happens in that nightmare scenario where it's already, I mean, people might be wearing the Pakistani armed forces uniforms, but if they are radicalized, if they have those sympathies with Al-Qaeda, with Taliban, with the Islamic State, and they are in charge of guarding Pakistan nuclear assets, where does that leave the world?
This is a very interesting question which needs to be traced back to the time when General Zia-ul-Haq made the decision to actually start using radicalism or Islamic fundamentalism as such to weaponize that against India and to bring Pakistan higher up in the overall committee of nations within the OIC as such. He always felt that Pakistan had to show itself as a more Islamized nation if it had to draw attention within the Islamic world. And the leadership of the Islamic world was something that Pakistan was always seeking. He went about very scientifically perhaps cultivating radicalism within the Pakistan armed forces, and that is what brought them to the situation they were in 2007 when finally the Pakistan army itself had to get into Lal Masjid to carry out those counter-insurgency operations inside the city itself. Thereafter, while radicalism has been definitely very much there existing within the Pakistan armed forces, I find that after 2014-15, particularly when Operation Zarb-e-Azb was launched, it was launched on the realization that this whole business of extremism, radicalism had gone a little too far. And that the very same elements that had been created to do service for Pakistan were now hitting back against Pakistan. I think consciously an effort was made at that time, and my discussions with a couple of Pakistani senior leaders somehow revealed that Pakistan had come to realize that radicalism could not be taken to the next level at all. It had to be reduced, and therefore a lot of deliberate efforts were made to try and de-radicalize. How far have they succeeded? I don't know. But to my mind, I think the Pakistan armed forces still remain very largely radicalized even today. So to that extent, your question is absolutely valid and correct, that you don't know who within the Pakistan armed forces can tomorrow turn rogue, get hold of the switches, the controls, or anything. I fully admit that today we don't yet have a sub-kiloton kind of a weapon system, nuclear weapon system, which can be carried in a suitcase and placed in a subway. I fully agree that that has not yet come by. But at least that capability can be developed at some stage in the near future. And that is what we are talking about all the time. And that is what we are worried about, that this kind of a capability must not reach the hands of these kind of elements, or someone from the Pakistan armed forces shouldn't assist the very elements that you mentioned, the Al-Qaeda, the ISIS, or the extremist elements within Pakistan, to empower them to do a thing like this. So this fear is very much existent. And I think the international community is by and large seized of it, although it doesn't speak too much about it, but they seem to be seized about it.
So, thank you very much for joining us, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, with Lieutenant General Syed Ata Hasnain, the General and I discussed a host of things: vaccine diplomacy, the role of China, Pakistan's current state, India's outreach to its neighbors, and what India could do in Africa and in other countries. And in the end, about radicalism inside Pakistan's armed forces, the unstable nature of Pakistan and its nuclear assets. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you next week again with another episode of the Chanakya Dialogues. Till then, from my team and I, Jai Hind.